I need you to hate so I can use you for your energy.
This is Real Sales Talk. Real sales advice from real sales practitioners. Giving you tips on how to dominate your sales quota are your co-hosts, Sean Mitchell and Phil Keen.
We don't have a process for referrals at most companies. I go into a company, I say, what's your referral process? They have no, well, what do you mean?
I think that goes back to the premise of why do salespeople suck at prospecting. I mean, number one reason why they suck at prospecting is they don't actually do it.
If you are successful and nobody knows, in 2016, 20, 2025, you're not successful.
You ever want to find out what's going on in the company? Get in the car and spend a day with the top 3 salespeople. You'll find out in 5 minutes.
Because you can't be a trusted advisor without 2 things, trust and advice. I mean, you need both of them.
What's going on, everyone? It's season 5, episode 7, and we've got an incredible guest. We always have incredible guests, but we've had, Phil, we actually had this long stint of like a month or so where we've had these like rock star kick-ass females in business and social media and sales. So I was just looking at our previous, last couple of seasons. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've had some amazing rock star females on the line. This one is,
and you know what? Maybe the females are the actual rock stars inside of the sale, and that's where it is. So yeah, that's why I love to hire from females, and I'm happy that that's the way it's played out. So
it's going to be another really great episode today. We've got my friend Katie Lance, who has agreed to join us. I always knew I wanted to bring her back and talk. The first time we had her on, almost a year ago, we were using a different video platform called Blab, rest in peace. We transitioned to a much more reliable platform because last time we had her on, we just had some technical difficulties. So excited to get an uninterrupted interview with Katie Lance about her new book, Get Social Smart. Katie, welcome to Real Sales Talk.
Thank you, guys. I am fired up to be here. Appreciate
Awesome.
The invite.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll have you on many, many, many more times as well because you just offer so much great value. For those that don't know about Katie Lance, she runs her own social media marketing company, and she advises on how to leverage social media to help grow business, right, Katie?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I worked with companies large and small, helping them figure out social media and figure out, what are the best ways to get business from social media, how to generate, how to build your relationships, how to generate leads, and just how to get smart. That's really my whole philosophy, is how to get smarter about how to use social media. So I love it. It's I'm in my groove of, we should all be in our groove, right? Of doing what we love to do. So yeah.
Yes. Now, your book is soon to come out. Yes. We're like days or weeks away, right?
Yes.
From this coming out.
Yes, it's been a work in progress for quite some time, but I'm very excited. It's on its way.
Once it comes out, you're going to be like, it was so worth the months of labor to write it and get it all approved and published. So talk to us a little bit about the history. What's the origin of this book? How did this come about?
Well, I'm probably like a lot of people. I've always had on my bucket list, like one day I'll write a book, right? That was sort of my dream one day. And, I have run my business for about the last 4 years, and we create a lot of content already. We create a lot of blog posts. We do a lot of video. Now we do a lot of live video. And it had just always sort of been in the back of my mind to create something a little bit more permanent, a little bit more lasting. A blog post lasts, what do they say, a few months or so. Video could last a little bit longer depending on what the content is. But there's something very permanent about creating something that is a physical book that someone actually, in this day and age, as much as I love social media and technology, there's something about physically, having a book. So it had kind of always had that in the back of my mind. And so started thinking about where could I really provide the most value. And honestly, it kind of started with taking an audit of the content I had already created. And that was really the beginning stages of the book. I hired an amazing editor who helped me kind of audit everything I've already created, all of my blog posts, all my videos, all my webinars over the years, and sort of help me kind of get my arms around all this content that I already had, and how could we sort of take that and sort of streamline into a book, right? Into kind of a handbook. And I knew that I didn't really want to, it's not really a manual. Like, it's not like a click here to do this or click here to do that, because social media changes so often, right? But I knew it would be more of just a little bit higher level as far as strategy, and really how to kind of dig into the nuts and bolts of how to put together a smart social media strategy. So it started about 1.5 years ago, and then, kind of took on a life of its own and morphed and grew, and now we're almost done.
Who is this book for? When you wrote this book, who's your ideal audience, or who do you envisioning this really like hitting the target?
It's really for a couple people, or a couple different types of people. I mean, the largest audience I usually reach are typically real estate professionals. So it's definitely geared for the real estate agent or team or brokerage. But it's also written for entrepreneurs, small business owners, solopreneurs, whether or not they're in real estate or not. I know, I've had a lot of experience working outside of the industry as well. So outside of the real estate industry. So even if someone is a solopreneur, entrepreneur, wantrepreneur, so to speak, I think they'll get a lot out of this book for sure.
So give me the premise. What's the big message you want to hit home with your book? So I know that the first chapter is around getting overwhelmed with social media. Like, where do I start? How do I start getting smart with social? Yeah,
there's a lot of overwhelm with social media. I think especially in 2017, there are more options than ever before, right? I mean, it's not just Instagram, but now it's Instagram Live and Instagram Stories and the Instagram newsfeed and Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and Periscope. And like, there's, a gazillion choices. And so, for me, one of the things I talk about is, number one, where are your clients at? So if you're in real estate, or if you're a small business owner or entrepreneur, where are they already hanging out, right? If it's Facebook or it's Snapchat. And then secondly, where do you like to be, right? I think sometimes we assume, my clients aren't on Snapchat. They're definitely not on Twitter. We just sort of make these assumptions because maybe we're not there. And so that's one of the things I kind of talk about especially in the beginning of the book, is trying out, just putting your feet in the water, trying out Google Hangouts or YouTube or, Pinterest, and seeing like, does that resonate with you, right? Is that a place that you enjoy being, that you enjoy kind of hanging out? And that's kind of first and foremost and you have to kind of go through that muck of just trying out these different platforms to figure out what's the best place for you, right? And then the other part of it, I would say, is it's not just enough to have a social media strategy. It's not just enough to say, well, okay, should I be on Facebook or Twitter or whatever? But really it's about taking a step back and going, what do I want to achieve? Like, why, right? Is it to get more business or brand recognition or lead generation or more sales or all of the above? And then how do you create a content strategy? Because once you've created a content strategy, as you guys are doing, I mean, what you're doing right now is brilliant, because you're creating really valuable content, right? And you're coming from a place of abundance, not fear, not scarcity. And this is a lot of what I talk about in the book, is how do you create that content strategy that really resonates with people, that transcends into a solid social media strategy. So long answer to your question, Phil.
I want to go back to the identifying the audience, where your audience is at. So if you're, I think most listeners who listen to Real Sales Talk are probably dabbling in or very heavily into social media. My guess is most people most people who listen to us, are not brand new with social media, so they've got some context. But let's say that you don't know where your core audience hangs out. You have no clue. How do you, where do you start with that? Like identifying, okay, do I need to go to Facebook, or is it Snapchat? Is my audience or my core audience or core customer base on Snapchat or Twitter or Instagram? How do you determine that? What's a good way to do that?
I'm a big believer in just asking too. If you're not sure, you can always try out, to see if they're there, if they're not there. Depending on your comfort level and depending on, how often you're communicating with your clients, especially in real estate, there's nothing wrong with sending an email to the last group of people you worked with over the last 12 to 18 months and saying something like, hey, we're working on our social media strategy. We always want to, stay up to date with the latest and greatest. We would just love to know, where are you hanging out? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Snapchat? And I think that does a couple things. I think it shows that you are trying to be on the cutting edge and that you're trying to, stay, top of mind. And then, and it's a great way to touch your clients, obviously, or your past clients. And then I think you'll also get some feedback of where they are and where they're not. And then the other side of that is to do your own research too. So maybe look at the last, 10 or 15 or 20 people you've worked with and take the time to, search them out on Facebook, search them out on Twitter, search them out, really go to each platform, pick 4 or 5 platforms. And Snapchat makes it a little bit hard to do that. Snapchat isn't the most intuitive when it comes to searching, which is a whole other conversation. But, it's fairly easy to do that on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on, on Instagram. And even one other tip I'll give you too is even if you go to those specific platforms, sometimes their search is not the best. So my little hack, if you will, is if you're trying to find somebody, if I was trying to find you, I would probably go into Google and I would put, Sean Mitchell Facebook, right? Or Sean Mitchell Twitter, Sean Mitchell, I would actually put your name and whatever handle I'm looking for in Google. And a lot of times, depending on what your name is, how common your name is or how common it's not, you're more likely to find it. So it's a little bit of homework, right? A little bit of research to see, are they there, are they not there? I think that can make a big difference.
So once you figure out where your audience is at, if I'm not a photographer, how do I go to Instagram? If I'm not dynamic enough, how do I start doing Facebook Live? If I'm not whatever persona it would take to do that platform well, but that's where my customers are.
Yeah.
How do I create a strategy to go execute there?
Well, if you find that your customers are there and you feel like you're sort of lacking in that, then I think you want to kind of do your due diligence to kind of amp up your game, right? And it's like anything, practice makes perfect, right? The first time I went live on Facebook or any social media platform, I stumbled, I had the ums and the ahs, or like 3 people who tuned in, right? I thought I was like a total failure, but it's just like anything. The more you do it, the better you get. And it kind of becomes a muscle in a lot of ways. And in fact, I was just having a conversation with our Academy members. We have an online Get Social Smart Academy. And I was sharing with them, I said, when you're creating content, whether it's Instagram content or Facebook Live content, what's going to happen is you're going to be doing it and you're going to be posting and you're going to be doing Facebook Lives, you're going to be posting photos, and you're going to get like hardly anybody who comments, right? You're going to get like 2 people, 3 people, and then it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, and you're still like, this is what is going on. But what you don't see is it's like you're pushing this boulder up the hill, right? And there comes sort of this tipping point where after you've been doing it consistently, whether it's every day or every few days or whatever, you start to get traction, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, people are liking my posts. I don't know who these people are, right? It's not just my mom. Like people are actually interacting with me. This is amazing, right? But what most people do is they give up, right? Like they give up at like that 5-month, 6-month part because they're like, I've been doing these Facebook Lives every week and no one's tuning in, right? And you guys know this. Like it's just like anything. You've got to do it consistently and just kind of just dive in and do the work. If you feel like I'm not really good at photos, like you have to kind of change that language in your head. I used to say that all the time. Oh, I'm not good at math. Well, I kept saying that. So guess what? I wasn't good at it, right? So you have to kind of change that dialogue too and just sort of kind of get over what you're not good at and just dive in. And the more you do it, the better you get.
I think that was a conversation that my wife and I had last night. My wife has started her own independent business. She's been dominating on Facebook, consistently posting 2-3 times a day. Some of it's business related, like product related. Other times it's more, family related, photos of kids and what we're doing here at the house and things like that. All of a sudden, 3 months in, she's getting people who are coming to her saying, hey, I'm interested in learning about your product. And they've had no interaction prior to this. Hey, I've seen your Facebook posts. Yeah. I'm really curious to learn a little bit more. And it only took, 3 months may be fast, maybe slow for some people, depending on your industry. But for her, it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
These people have been following along and they've said nothing. And all of a sudden they're starting to engage and respond. So it did take her some time.
Yeah. Well, and I see that in a lot of different industries. My neighbor is a great example. She's a full-time teacher, but she's like a lot of full-time people who have this side hustle, right? And she's got an Etsy business. She's an amazing crafter and she does all these, craft projects and she's making a nice little side hustle, side income off Etsy. And she's got an Instagram page and a Facebook page. And I was just having this conversation with her as well about the same thing, about that 3, 4, 5 month period. Like, you start getting people who are reaching out to you where these people come from, right? And what's interesting is I find is that there's this whole sort of untapped part of social media that's really hard to track. And that's the people that are watching you and listening and reading, but they don't comment and they don't share it, but they're watching, right? And so that's where when we look at metrics like with Facebook will give you an idea of reach, and we go, okay, well, what does that mean, right? Well, it can kind of give you somewhat of a sense of like, okay, well, people are seeing it. It's just maybe they're not interacting. And that may not be a reflection of how great or how not great your content is. It's just some people, no matter how great something is, they just want to watch, right? They're like the lurker. But when they're ready, they're going to come out of the woodwork.
So give me the fundamentals of that. So if you're looking at trying to get that lurker to take action or trying to get more people to get eyes on the content you're creating, what are those things? I mean, obviously like a headline is a big deal, or the type of things you're saying, or how you're curating and crafting a post. That might be a downside for somebody that's in sales or somebody that is a real estate agent. They might not be able to craft a really nice 140 character tweet that catches that one person. So what's that strategy look like for you?
Well, there's a lot. There's definitely a lot of things. I mean, I think the headline makes a big difference. And actually, there's a great free tool. There's a company called CoSchedule.com, and they have a great free tool. It's called the Headline Analyzer. And I love it. We use this all the time for our blog, for videos. And what you do, it's just a free tool. You put in whatever sort of headline you're thinking of using, and then it'll shoot back to you a score. I just did this the other day, and I got like a 70, which is like a C. I'm like, what? Why is this terrible? But it tells you like, oh, this is too long, or you should use this sort of. It sort of kind of helps you with the headline part of it, because let's face it, we're sort of a society where we're just skimming, right? We're just like reading the headlines, and sometimes that's half of it right there. And then the other part of it is your actual content. And in fact, I just gave a talk about this recently. There's sort of this whole science behind why someone clicks that share button, right? It's one thing for someone to watch. It's one thing for someone to like or comment, but it's a whole other thing when someone shares it, right? And what we found is that people share content based on generally emotion, right? It's something funny. It's something poignant, makes us cry, makes us laugh. For a lot of us, it's really hard to make someone laugh or cry. So where I think that there's an opportunity for people in business is to be really informative, right? To share information where people go, I hadn't thought of it that way, right? And so when I think of my own content, and I think of like people who would read my book and follow my content, people who probably watch this podcast, sharing information for the sake of being really informative, of being helpful, that's another reason why someone's going to click that share button. Right? Because when someone shares, it's not just, oh, I think this is interesting. You're thinking to yourself, and you may not think this consciously, but you're thinking to yourself, other people are going to think that this is informative, and I'm going to look really smart by sharing this, right? So sort of focusing on that, I think, can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And Sean and I have had this conversation a little bit in the past, is those people that, like, I think of Gary Vaynerchuk 6 years ago.
Yes.
He was writing just pure emotion. I'm going to tell you how I actually feel at this time. And it wasn't to make you laugh. It wasn't really to make you cry. And even though that he has for both of those, it was I'm just going to say it like you say it.
Yeah.
You're going to relate to me because of that. So it's finding that way to relate to that person. And I think that's a great call out. So
totally. And I also think too, just to add on to that, is one of the things I love about Gary Vee is he just is who he is, right? And he's so comfortable in his own skin. And whether or not you like him, some people don't like him, which is fine. But I think that's a big part of it too, is when you're creating content and you're thinking about your social media strategy, you've got to just really be who you are, right? Because sometimes we try to cast this really wide net. I see this happen in sales all the time, right? We want to capture everybody. So we try to be all things to all people. And then we become really vanilla, right? And our content becomes super boring and bland versus like, this is who I am, whether it's funny or nice or arrogant or whatever, like whatever your personality is, because that's who you're going to relate to, and like attracts like. So
yeah, and I've seen with some blogs that I've written in the past is there's some that get a lot of volume where there's a lot of people talk to it, but it's not really something that's really deeply personal to me. Yeah. And I don't get a lot of comments afterwards where they're like, hey, when you said that, it resonated with me. Versus the ones that I write because I was more of a diary session of things that I'm going through.
Yeah.
Those are the ones where people like will actually stop and grab me. And like, it didn't get a lot of shares, it didn't get a lot of love, but the people that read it and consumed it really related deeply to it. So it's good.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it makes a difference too, to create content on different channels, right? So I have like a lot of our social media and business content on katielance.com on our blog, but I agree with you, Phil, like the times where I've gotten a little bit more personal, shared just some more sort of life philosophies and thoughts, doesn't quite go on my company blog. So I use Medium, right? Which I know, Sean, you've used a lot. And, or I'm a writer on the Huffington Post. So sometimes I'll contribute there. So just, I agree with you though. It may not get all the shares, but it's important too. It really resonates with people.
Yeah.
How do you determine, Katie, what content goes on which platform? Because I try and follow you pretty closely on multiple platforms, and I can tell you're pretty intentional about the types of content that go on each. Do you have some sort of rule, or is it just kind of how it feels? How do you measure that?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of people struggle with that, and it's part of the overwhelm with so many different channels, right? So I think part of it, I guess there's a couple things. So I have, I guess, sort of loose rules for what type of content kind of goes on what channel, at least for me. And a lot of it, to be honest, has to do with sort of like the personal versus business piece of it, right? So I share a lot of my kids. If you follow me on social, well, you know this. If you follow me on social media, I'm happily married. I have 2 boys, and I share a fair amount about them. But I'm sort of kind of particular about where I share stuff. So I share a little bit about them on Snapchat and Instagram, but really the bulk of, if I'm going to talk about my family, is Facebook, right? On my personal profile. That's really where, I'm going to post the photo album of like their birthdays or whatever, right? And so that, I guess for me, just as a mom and also balancing like personal and business, just thinking about where I'm most comfortable sharing that personal, sharing that business. And kind of, setting those parameters, so to speak. And a lot of that started with Twitter. I've been active on Twitter since, 2008 or 2009. And because Twitter is so public, I never really talked about, super personal things with family. And so those sort of rules kind of started there. But I also think just kind of setting some guidelines for how you think about social media. So I look at Snapchat and Instagram as the story behind the story, right? So I've sort of consciously said, for Facebook, I'll probably post once or twice a day, depending on, I'm not just going to post for the sake of posting, but typically once or twice a day. A pretty good rhythm with that on my personal profile and also my business page. My personal profile is probably about 80 to 90% personal, and I might throw in something business related, 1 out of every 10 posts. Business is pretty much business, right? But Snapchat and Instagram stories has kind of become this like story behind the story, right? So whereas I might post, I just got back from Vegas because I just spoke at a conference, and I'm going to post a few photos, at the conference on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram stories and my Snapchat are all those little moments that I wouldn't post on Facebook because, it's just too much TMI, right? Too much information, but it's perfectly acceptable on Instagram stories or Snapchat because it's this behind the scenes, right? So a lot of it, you really kind of think about the ecosystem of what that platform's all about. And Snapchat and Instagram stories is just perfect for sort of this behind the scenes, right? Facebook and sort of the regular Instagram news feed is a little bit more of that crafted, sort of perfect version of of yourself, right? Kind of the highlight reel, so to speak. And then I think of Twitter. I think of Twitter is a great way to drive traffic. I know Twitter's numbers are kind of declining, and I'm hoping it'll kind of turn things around over at Twitter. But Twitter's been a great resource to drive traffic to our website. So a lot of our content gets repurposed and reshared over and over again on Twitter. Twitter's also a great place to reach people that we don't know. It's still a great resource to reach the media, to reach the press, to reach, for lead generation. I mean, there's really no other platform like Twitter that allows you to connect with people that you don't know through their advanced search platform. So again, kind of a long answer to your question, but just thinking about sort of the ecosystem of each platform. And we really take the time. If we're going to take something and post it to multiple platforms, you're never just going to see us like push a button and have it go everywhere, right? It's about how does that network work and how can we best sort of like position it in each network, right? So it doesn't feel like spammy or sparmy or anything like that.
And I think you make a really good point in talking about Twitter. It's a really good traffic source, and it's not getting to be as much anymore for a lot of people that have been historically active on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where you think some of the world of social media is going. Where should we invest more time? And I love the idea that you're all over a bunch of different platforms exploring and testing things out. So any trends or anything you see that I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big trend that we've seen over the last probably at least 6 to 12 months is live streaming, right? Between Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Periscope, which is getting folded, it looks like, more and more into Twitter Live and whatever else live next thing comes out, in the next few months. And Snapchat and Instagram stories. I think, Facebook apparently soon is going to be releasing their version of Facebook stories or whatever they're going to call it. But I think this whole movement of content that's live, it's quick, it's in the moment, it's not necessarily like this perfectly edited post, right? Whereas for a long time, and Facebook and Instagram are still like this in some ways, where it's the beautiful photo and everything looks great. It's the perfect selfie, right? Everything's perfect. And I feel like we're just moving a little bit towards, I hate the word authentic because it's such a buzzword, but just a little bit more of like, this is who we really are, right? Like, this is like the real deal. And so I think that's a big trend right now. It's definitely been a trend for a while, especially with the kids. I feel so old saying that, but like the kids, right? But now that Snapchat has kind of grown up, and as the more mature people, older people, I guess, have sort of joined the platform. And so, when people say to me, and I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk say this, when people say to me, well, like, is Snapchat really relevant? Is it going to be around a year from now? Like, I don't really care. It's around right now. Like, it's really relevant right now, right? Again, it depends on your audience, of course. For some people watching, it may not be relevant, but for a lot of people, it is. And you have to kind of have to be okay with that, right? Like, as much as we know right now, things are going to change, and you have to kind of, move and adjust with that.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have to be relatable. You have to.
Yeah.
You want to see. I want to see Katie. I want to see Katie be Katie.
Yeah.
You want to relate to that.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance. Like, there's still a place for polished content, right? In fact, we've actually doubled down in recorded video this year, which is kind of funny. Like, in the year of like Facebook Live and like everything in the moment, like, now I'm spending more money and time on like polished material, but there's still a balance for both, right? Like, there's still a hunger for content that's fun and engaging and produced and really well thought out. And especially when you look at the metrics with Facebook and recorded video and how often people are just watching video, not really listening to video, and video with the sound off, like that whole conversation that's happening on video, I think is really powerful. So I don't think that's going away, right? Like the thought put behind good content, whether it's blog posts or white papers or podcasts, like, I don't think that's going away anytime soon. It's just that balance of content that's in the moment, live content, Snapchat, Instagram stories, balanced with recorded content, and whether we like it or not, we're all kind of becoming media companies, I think, in a way, where we're creating content that, regardless if Facebook's around tomorrow or Snapchat or whatever, we've got this base of content that we can kind of move and goes with us in different platforms, regardless of where we are right now.
I've got a couple of questions that I just have to ask, and it's very relevant to your book in content creation and leveraging social media. So the first one is, if you follow Katie on Facebook, she's recently started doing, actually, you started doing a couple of things on the polished video side. I'm curious to get your feedback on the why. What's pushed you to start doing some of these things? Like, you're now doing a show. I don't think, is it weekly? It's a weekly show. You're sitting where you're sitting at now.
Yes.
You're covering different topics. So that one is published. I want you to talk about that one and some of the motivation behind that. Also, you're doing like a kind of like a Daily V style video where you've got a videographer who's following you around and getting that kind of a day in the life of Katie as she goes on a trip. So talk about those two strategies a little bit. I'd love to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is, the beginning of end of last year, beginning of this year, we were thinking about our content strategy for the year. We were planning on our 12-month content plan for our blog, for our academy content, for the book, for, all these different things that were happening. And I told my team, I said, I really want to do more video. Like, I really want to go all in with more video. And I've always done video. It's just, like a lot of things that we do, right? It hasn't been consistent, right? It hasn't like been a part of consistently what we do. And so we just said, let's start a vlog, right? And I think it's funny as I went through this process, because again, I've been doing video for a long time, obviously, but I think even myself, like, I still get hung up on how do I look and how do I sound and how are we going to edit it? And then what happens to most people is then they don't do it, right? And for me, I hate editing video. Like, I know how to edit video, but seriously, you could poke me in the eye because I hate doing it, right? And so finally I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just hire a video editor? Like, I can do the video, I'll send it to somebody who's great at it, and they'll make it look great. And it sounds so simple, right? But I think we just think, oh my gosh, it's gonna cost so much money. It's gonna be like so hard to find that. We just asked a few people, who do you know? I interviewed a few people. We found someone great. We worked with her on our look and our feel, and it's awesome, right? So to answer your question, we basically decided to go all in, right? And so what we're doing is every week, every Wednesday, we're releasing the Get Social Smart show, and it's just 2 or 3 minutes of video content. It's usually 2 or 3 quick tips. And we're still doing some regular blogging on our blog, but what we found is just the attention and the eyeballs and the reach and the engagement we're getting from video is just so much higher, right? I mean, there's always been a lot of information that's out there, but even more so, I feel like when you're on Facebook, you're standing on the side of the freeway and you're just like watching content fly by, right? And so how can you be thumb stopping in the news feed? And video is just kind of the way to do it, right? So we knew we had to do it, and that's sort of what we're doing right now. And from the back end perspective, what I'm doing is I'm batching all my video. So we really said, okay, how are we going to do this really smart, getting smart about social media? So I sit down once a month and I record 4 or 5 videos all in one shot. We have them all, I change my outfit every time, right? Change it, whatever. We're good to go. Send them over, to our videographer, and she handles it, and we get it all situated and ready to go. So it's become this sort of systemized process, which has been awesome. We get it into Facebook, YouTube, our website, and everything. And then the second video series, like you mentioned, we're calling it Katie Speaks. And it is kind of a Gary V-ish sort of, similar look and feel. And the thought behind that is that, I'm speaking at conferences all over the country. I usually speak 2 or 3 conferences a month. And I'm all about repurposing content, right? Like, if you're going to do something once, why not do it 3 or 4 times? Why not? We're already doing that with our other content, where we take one piece of content and we repackage it and slice and dice it 20 different ways. So I thought, well, this is just one more way we can repurpose the fact that I'm going to speak at this event. So yeah, what I basically did was just say, you know what, I'm going to reach out to people in that local area, see who they know. And so far, knock on wood, we've only done this 3 times so far. We just did our last one yesterday in Vegas, but it's been great. I've been able to work with local videographers. We hire them for about a half day. They kind of follow me around. At first, it was a little odd, this like camera person following you around, but it's been great. And then again, we edit it, we get it together into a really nice sort of polished version of behind the scenes of what we're doing. And it's not meant to be, hey, look at me. Of course, there's some promotional value to it, but it's content, right? It's content sharing what we're doing. There's snippets of my talk on stage. They're learning from different people who attended my talk. So far it's been great. We've gotten so much great feedback from it. And it's been fun. So I'm glad you noticed.
I absolutely. Yeah. So one thing that I get from you, one takeaway that I get from this is video. Video is really big. And if you're a business or an entrepreneur, solopreneur, a salesperson, video, they should be focusing on video, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to be at the level that I'm at where I'm hiring videographers. I mean, maybe you have 0 budget to do this, but the great part about this is most people have some sort of computer or laptop, which if you have a fairly recent one, you've got a camera just like we're using right now. And you can use that. Like, that's a great place to start. Or you use your phone and you get a $10 tripod, right? And the challenge is most people get so hung up in the details that they just don't do it, right? It's like analysis paralysis. And this is something I talk about in the book. It's like, just start, just do it. And your first couple will be terrible and you'll be nervous and you're like, whatever. Like, you just start, right? You start with where you're at. But video is huge, especially as a salesperson. Oh my gosh, so much opportunity for anybody in sales to just create video where you're sharing helpful information, you're sharing your knowledge. I think that's such a huge opportunity.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up, but I just had this crazy idea, and I'm going to do it just because that's how I roll. We're going to create a rapid fire segment at the very end, and we're going to save this for our YouTube viewers. So if you're listening to this on the podcast version on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever, go to our YouTube channel so that you can hear these rapid fire questions that we're about to ask Katie. So
awesome.
First one is, who would you say is one of the most influential people in your life? Who's impacted you the most, or one of the people who's impacted you the most?
Professionally?
Yeah.
Probably Gary Vaynerchuk, to be honest. I mean, I know we've talked about him a few times, but he's someone I have followed, I don't know, for years. When he first wrote Crush It, I've read all of his books, and yeah, he's a huge influence. I always feel like he's on the cutting edge of whatever's happening when it comes to content and social media strategy, and I just really admire his work ethic. He's all about the hustle. Obviously, as any of your viewers know Gary, but yeah, he's been a huge inspiration for me.
Great. Favorite book?
Favorite book? I would probably say my own. No, I'm just kidding. No.
You're allowed to say that.
No. Michael Port has written a couple really good books. Michael Port is a well-known podcaster. He is an amazing person who teaches speakers how to be better speakers. He comes from sort of this performance side. He's an actor. He's comes from NYU, and so in fact, I've got his book right here. Hold on, let me pull it up here because I want to give you the actual right title because it's one of my favorite books right now. Steal the Show,
yes.
And that's actually the name of his podcast too. So great book, not just for people who speak on stage, but for anybody in sales, anybody who gives presentations. It's kind of an art form, and I love that book. I've been reading it off and on the last year or so.
Awesome. Okay, so last question here. So when you're not crushing it with video and content on social media, what are you doing?
Family time, I mean, work hard, play hard. And I'm a big believer of like the whole reason why I started my own company, my own business was to have that quality of life. So as much as I love the hustle, I'm also about just spending time with my family. My two boys are in sports a whole lot. We take a lot of vacations. We do a lot of family time. And that's probably the biggest thing. Just time with the family because life is short. And time marches on faster than sometimes we'd like to. So that's where you'll usually find me.
Awesome. Well, Katie, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show again. Where can people find Get Social Smart book once it comes out?
Probably the best place is just to go to my website, katielance.com. We're gonna have a little section up there all about the book. And right now you can also click on katielance.com. There's some information about Get Social Smart right now. We've got information about our academy that's up there, but you will also have some information soon about the book.
I might also recommend subscribing to the email list. I mean, not only are you sending great content, but I mean, I would assume that once the book does release, that might be a good way to get notified.
Yeah, absolutely. Your listeners can sign up for the email list. We have a free content grid that we give away when someone signs up for our email list, which is a great strategy guide of where to start with social media. So definitely a great place to get signed up and to be in the know when the book comes out.
Awesome. KatieLance.com. Go check it out. Go follow Katie as well. I think you're Katie Lance on most social mediums, right?
Yes, just about all of them.
Awesome. Thanks again, Katie. You're amazing and wonderful, and I wish you a lot of success in 2017. Go buy the book once it comes out. Go sign up for our email list, and then go buy the book once it comes out here in the next few weeks. So thanks again, Katie. Have a wonderful one.
Thank you, guys.